All right, it's about 11 a.m. West Coast time on Sunday, June 22nd, the day after we bombed Iran. I had my big breakfast. I had a nap with the dogs. And I've been thinking about, I talked in my last couple of videos about, nobody knows what the Iranian response to this is going to be. The Trump administration clearly seems to think that there is not going to be one at all, which seems wildly unrealistic to me. But so I've been doing some reading, and I've gone to a couple of creators whose opinions I value to see what they've been saying. And, one of the news stories that came out this morning, Iran's parliament has voted to close the Strait of Hormuz, a vital shipping channel through which around 20% of the world's daily oil flows. Mr. Global has some great videos on this today. When you hear that phrase, close the Strait of Hormuz, that doesn't mean they have to do it militarily. It's about creating an environment of fear and doubt and uncertainty. Are tankers going to get attacked? If so, which tankers are going to get attacked? And Mr. Global had one great video this morning about what insurers are doing right now. And they're discussing a number for a wartime premium for insurance coverage for tanker ships that cost 150 million bucks a piece. And whether these companies are willing to risk $150 million tanker full of $100 million worth of, or a million barrels of oil just to come through the Strait of Hormuz when Iran and the United States and Israel are at war. And it just becomes an economic decision at that point. And it rapidly approaches being economically prohibitive. And you're talking about these major oil companies and major shipping companies and costs of shipping going through the roof, costs of insurance going through the roof, all of which is going to get passed on to consumers in the cost of oil and cost of gasoline. And effectively, Iran could get that done without firing a shot, just creating this kind of environment of fear. And another thing that I was listening to a really good discussion this morning on a podcast talking about Iran's ballistic missile program. And one Middle East expert I was listening to, he's like, they've got somewhere between 3,000, 3,200 ballistic missiles. That's a 10-to-1 ratio over any other country in the region. Iran has one of the largest ballistic missile stockpiles of any country in the world. And the theory was, it's like, Iran doesn't have an offensive army consisting of 2 million soldiers or something. They've put their money into things like a ballistic missile program, so they're not invading anybody, but they have a shit ton of ballistic missiles. And last fall, I think Israel sought to destroy some of their production facilities for their ballistic missiles, and they were successful in doing that. But then China came in and was like, oh, we can replace all that stuff for you, and just gave them all the materials that they were making themselves so that they could continue to manufacture and replace their ballistic missiles as they use them. And so what's Iran going to do with those? Well, overnight they sent a couple dozen into Israel, and it seems like most of those got through, and they did a tremendous amount of damage. So at least immediately following our bombing of them, they kind of kept up the status quo kind of thing. They could also do nothing and go to the negotiating table and do a ceasefire. I think that's, like I said, wildly unlikely. they could directly attack United States military bases, as they said they would. And there are 50,000 active duty U.S. military soldiers throughout the Middle East. It's a target-rich environment for Iran if they want to go after U.S. military bases and U.S. military personnel. That currently is like kind of my biggest fear. I'm worried sick about our members of the military in the Middle East. You know, because it's like we're not dealing with an entirely rational regime. I mean, we're just not. In any of these countries, Iran, Israel, or the United States, we don't have rational leadership in any of these countries. And it's really hard to argue that one is worse than the other, given the things that all three of them have done in the last week. Although Israel has also been doing what they've been doing inside of the Gaza Strip for 20 months. And they started this war with Iran knowing that they couldn't finish it themselves, knowing that they needed the United States to come in and drop the bunker busters that we did last night in order to finish the war. Then you've got Iranian proxies throughout the Middle East: Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis in Yemen. Hezbollah in southern Lebanon, even though their personnel was degraded quite a bit last year with the little exploding pager thing that Israel did, they've still got somewhere around 150,000 guided missiles in southern Lebanon pointed at Israel, and they could redirect those elsewhere. And Iran itself, if it's a waiting game as far as munitions goes, Iran will win that. They have dramatically more missiles and military material than Israel does. Israel's been at war for 21 months. Israel currently is almost entirely dependent upon the United States for its munitions to continue the war in Gaza, let alone the war they started with Iran. They'll be out in a couple weeks or a month, and Iran can make this last for a very, very long time. But they have all those missiles. They also need launchers, and Israel has been taking out a lot of Iran's missile launchers. There's that. Then I saw another article this morning. Senior Russian official reveals that multiple countries are ready to supply Iran with nuclear warheads. Other countries who do not like the United States or Israel are just stepping up and saying, we will provide Iran with nuclear warheads for free. We'll just give them to them. Former Russian President or Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev warned the United States via social media that a number of countries are now prepared to arm Iran with nuclear warheads following Saturday's bombing. So it's like, what the hell do you do about that? You know, if you have China, Russia, Pakistan, India, North Korea, any of them stepping in to say, you know what? You guys are so afraid of Iran getting a nuclear warhead, we're just going to give them 3 or 4 that will fit onto missiles that Iran already has, and let them do whatever they want to with them. And so it's like, and that's not speculation at this point. The former Prime Minister of Russia put that statement out today. So who the fuck knows what's going to happen? But it's not going to be nothing. And there are going to be dead U.S. service members as a result of this. And we'll see how the country responds to that.